Today, I am just going to be talking a lot about getting started with real estate investing, especially like how you're saying, Sarah, you want to learn how to really get started, get the ball rolling there. I'm going to be taking a lot of information from, well, first off, from the MREI. We all know the MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, but there's also the Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And so we actually did a book club with this in the office last year. Learned a lot of really good stuff. I highly recommend reading it for you all. But then I'm also going to be talking about a mentorship that I did this last year. And a lot of this is just based off of my own experience and from the people who have been gracious enough to mentor me while I learn how to do my own real estate investing, and out-of-state investing. So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Let's see. Okay. All right. Can you all see my screen right there?
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. And then any questions, feel free, like as we're going, just go ahead and feel free to put them in the chat. Is everyone able to hear me okay? Yes.
Yes, perfect. Yep.
Great. Okay. I'm happy to hear it. I'm happy to see it. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started. I do want to talk a little bit about me. So Laura mentioned this previously, but I did recently purchase my own property in Memphis. This was back in March of this last year. So coming up on a year. We furnished it in April. Oh, and this is a picture of my cute little property. So we furnished it completely in April. We started renting it out in April. We've almost exclusively rented MTR, which is medium-term rentals. And I put in almost because we did have a month of short-term rentals, which I am going to say I did not enjoy doing short-term rentals. But if that's something that you want to do and that's your goal, your priority, excellent. We'll be talking more about it later. I'm going to be talking mostly about doing medium-term rentals because I have found that's where I can get the most return on my investment. The longest we've been without a renter is only 8 days. And I will say in those 8 days, you do have time to spiral and think you've made all of the wrong decisions. But 8 days is not that long. So I feel really lucky that that's the longest time that we've been without a renter. My husband and I are doing this together. And so last year we actually did take a year-long mentorship with Sarah Weaver. If you all are familiar with maybe Bigger Pockets, Sarah Weaver did come to the office, about a year and a half ago to speak. And she came to the KW in Burlingame last year as well. I took our MREI book club up there. And we all got to go see Sarah Weaver and just participate in that. But she's also the author of the 30-day stay. So she will say, I literally wrote the book on medium-term rentals, which she did. And there's a lot of good information in there as well. We partnered with our in-laws to list the second property in January, and the first tenant moved in just barely. And they've booked the townhome for 9 months. So we're really excited about that. We love a longer stay, even though MTR is classified as 30 days or more and under a year. 9 months is perfect because it gives you the stability for those entire 9 months. And we've really learned a lot over the last year. So I'm really excited to talk a lot about that with you all today. Some things that we're going to be talking about. This is our what we're going to be going through today. So we want to make sure you know your terms. We're going to do some vocabulary. We're going to learn how to analyze a deal, find a strategy. We're going to pick a market, create a financing, get your ground crew, and then put it into action. So my goal for you all at the end of today's class is to have an action plan. Now, a lot of this information is going to be it's the basic. We only have an hour today, and so I'm trying to get everything to you that I can. But by the end of today, you should have some sort of understanding of where to get started. And I will be giving you some of the tools, especially and most importantly, the deal analysis calculator, that you can download that and learn how to be analyzing your own properties wherever you're looking for. So with that, and then if you have questions, like I said, put it in the chat because I want to hear from you all. I want this to be participatory as well. So here's your vocab for today, and we can always come back to this if you have questions about it. But your cash flow. Your cash flow is going to be your net operating income minus your debt payments. Your net operating income, NOI, is your gross operating income minus your gross operating expenses. Your gross, and then we come to our gross operating income, which means your rents minus your vacancy plus other income. Now, really quick here, that other income. Does anyone have any idea what other income might include? Other ways that you can make income when you're renting out a house. So what I would classify as other income would be things like maybe you have a shed in the backyard that you rent out as storage space. So you could get maybe an extra $100 a month off of that shed because people are using it for storage. There's a great website called, I think it's called Neighbors. I'm gonna have to look that up and I'll send it in the follow-up email. But people are able to just rent out space in people's houses, storage lockers. It's a lot cheaper than renting out a whole storage unit. And I actually have experience with this in renting out space when I was in college and I'd go home for the summer. I would leave all of my, just all of my dorm room stuff in a locker instead of having to purchase an entire storage unit or pay or take up space in someone's, like one of my other friends' houses. We would do that. So that's an excellent way to increase other income. Another example of this would be laundry. Maybe you have a coin-operated laundry or an app-based laundry for your tenants. You can make money off of that as well. Gross operating expenses. This is what we sometimes call your PITI, your principal, insurance, taxes, and interest. So we have all of that. And then you also want to include things like your maintenance and repairs, your utilities, and your property management if you're going to be using a property management company. We actually manage our properties ourselves just so that we can save some money. And for me, I like to just be in control and know what's going on. However, there's a lot of burden lifted off your shoulders if you are using a property management company. Cash on cash return. This turns into a percentage. So it's your annual cash flow divided by your total initial investment. And we're going to be seeing this on the deal analysis calculator here in a minute. But a good cash on cash return, we want something in the, like, I would say 10 to 20% range is what I want to go for. But if you have anything above 0, that's good. That's great. And I'll be able to illustrate this in just a moment. Any questions on any of these vocab terms, these important terms? Okay, then we're gonna go ahead and move on to our deal analysis calculator. Now I have this here where you can download it for yourself. I do wanna let you know that it doesn't operate the same way in Google Sheets. So when you download it, it goes to your drive, but please open it on either Excel or Numbers if you're using an Apple computer. The things that you want to know before getting started with your deal analysis calculator. Property taxes. Now, property taxes you can find on Zillow, on the KW app, and it's always just a rough estimate, or you can actually go into the county tax assessor and find what the actual property taxes were for that property. So you want to have at least an estimate of what those taxes are going to be. The price, obviously. I always include property management just as like a fail-safe because I'm very conservative when we're putting our money in there. Insurance, again, this is a rough estimate. You can get these off of Zillow or the KW app. Maintenance and repairs, kind of an estimate as well, but usually plan for about 5% capital expenditures. Utilities, oh, it looks like I put property management in there twice. Told you, I'm being conservative here. The purchase price, your rental income. So this is based off of your own analysis of the market. You're going through the market, you see what prices, what houses are renting for in this market that you've chosen, and go ahead and put your best estimate and your goal of what you want to rent that house for. Again, if you want to be conservative with this, you could put in the deal analysis calculator something a little bit lower than what you are planning to rent it out for, just in case maybe it doesn't get rented out right away and you lower it a little bit. And then financing terms. So this is going to be your down payment, your interest rate, different things like that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing a different screen. Let's see. We're going to stop share and then share. Let's see. Here we go. All right. So here is my deal analysis calculator. Everyone's able to see that, correct? Great. I'm going to take that as a yes. And then, okay, if it's asking for approval, just go ahead and request approval and I will, I'll be sure to accept that afterwards, after the class. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and analyze the deal that I did in Memphis. So my purchase price for what the house that we got was $167,500. That was our purchase price on the property. Upfront rehab costs. There are different things that you can put here. For us, we actually did not have to put any rehab into the house. This is because we bought it kind of, we wanted a really turnkey property. Some people do put a lot of work into the property, whether that's electrical, roofing, whatever you need to do. Ours was a flip. And so we got it pretty much all the way done. The only thing that we needed to do was furnish it. So I include all of my furnishing costs in this upfront rehab. And our furnishing costs were about $25,000. And that's being conservative. It was about that. It was probably closer to 20, but I'm going to go ahead and put in 25. The rental income. So we do ours, we actually rent ours out for $2,600 a month. And then I keep this vacancy rate at 8%. I say, don't touch that. We're just going to leave that how it is. I do not have any other income. So we're not renting out. We do have a shed in the backyard. It's just kind of it's a little grungy of a shed. We don't want to touch that quite yet. I don't have any other income coming in when it comes to this property. So I'm just going to leave that at 0. And then let's go to this capital expenditure budget. Now, if you are buying a new build, a flip, anything, I would say leave this at 0%. Because hopefully you're not having to do anything additional to this new build. However, capital expenditures, this is going to be your big projects that you put in. Like if you need a new roof, if you need a new HVAC, what have you. I like to plan for about 5% capital expenditure budget. And then same with maintenance and repairs. Maybe and this is me speaking from experience, the last owners did not update the electrical as they said they did. So you would need to have an electrician come in and work on some things. I say budget for about 5% on both of these things. Some months are going to be more, some months are going to be less. Okay. Now, property taxes and estimated insurance. These numbers I actually do not have handy with me right this very second. So I'm just going to leave them where they're at. But you can go and find these on Zillow, on Redfin, on a KW app. You can find them in a lot of different places. This right here, this just automatically updates. And this is your annual. So your annual capital expenditure budget, $1,500. Maintenance budget, $1,500. That's actually very low. It's really dependent on your house and how much work you're going to be putting into it, as well as the kind of strategy you're doing. And we'll talk more about strategies, but if you're doing we call it the BRRRR strategy, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, you're going to be doing a lot more maintenance and capital expenditures. Landlord paid utilities. I am going to say right now, I can tell you what my utilities are that I pay for, our house. And that's so it's a lot cheaper. It's I'd say about $21.60. So I'm just going to bring that down a little bit. And then let's talk about your financing. Your financing depends on the kind of loan you're going to use. For us, we had 2% closing cost percentages. And then percentage down, we actually financed ours as a second home. So we only had to pay 10% down. We did purchase it at the height of interest rates. I mean, they're still high, but our interest rate was about 7.5 for 30 years. And I always leave this annual appreciation percentage at 4% because that's usually about the plan for that. Now it's going to tell me all of my information. So here we changed nothing. This is based off of these blue columns or these blue cells. So my loan amount turns into about 150,000. There's my down payment, upfront rehab costs. So my initial investment is about $45,000. It's going to tell me what my gross operating income is, my operating expenses, my NOI, which is that net operating income, my loan payments for a year. So my yearly payments are going to be about this. Now this number is totally off because I did not update all of this. Saying that my monthly cash flow is about 709. I would say my monthly cash flow is probably about 500, just because I do also pay a cleaner to come in and clean and reset the house. And I don't have that calculated into here. If you wanted, you could calculate that into landlord paid utilities as well, because that's part of resetting the house. So my cash on cash return is going to be 18%. This is excellent. This is really what you want to have. Like anything, if you can find something above 12% cash on cash return, you're doing really well. Now, if this number turns red, that means it's probably not a good deal. You're probably not going to be making as much money and you might be breaking even. The thing with this deal analysis calculator is that your criteria of what you think is a good return or not depends on you and your strategy and your priorities. If your priority is just really based off of that annual appreciation, you're probably going to be buying, perhaps you're buying a new home build. So you're not going to be getting that much of a return because you're spending a lot up front. But if your priority is this monthly cash flow, you're probably going to be buying a house that's fairly inexpensive. Our house was incredibly inexpensive. I feel like we paid hardly anything. Especially coming from the Bay Area where everything is over $2 million. You're not going to be making that much cash flow on a property here in the Bay Area. But if your priority is that monthly cash flow, you're going to have different strategies as well. Okay. Yes. So Laura asked me if I have a home warranty. Yes, we do have a home warranty. I highly recommend getting a home warranty. Does anyone have any other questions? Oh, and so yes, you would factor that into like your monthly expenses as well. How did I find, and so Shaista, I think I'm saying your name correctly. So how did I find this property and then go through the purchase process?
That's correct.
Yes. Okay. So I found this property with my agent. I had an agent in Memphis. I would recommend, I'm going to go through that in a little bit in just like creating your ground crew and your agents. I would love for everyone to go through a KW agent. We did not, and I wish that we had because I feel like I would have been able to vet them a little bit better. So we just went through an agent in Memphis. We bought the house sight unseen. And there were some minor breakdowns that we had with ourselves and our decision making. But ultimately it came out okay. And we have been profitable over the year based off of our monthly expenses and income as well. Any other questions based off of just this this deal analysis calculator? Like I said, if you're not able to see it, I'll be sending it to you in a follow-up email.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So to me, if the purchase price is 167, the rehab cost 25, around 190, above a little bit, right?
Sorry, say that
And the-
again. So the purchase price is 167, and then
And
what
then
was that?
rehab cost is 25,000.
Yeah.
It's my 192.
Uh-huh. Yes.
So 192. And if you rent it for 2,600, is that a little too positive? Or like, how can we find that?
Okay, so
Yeah.
how do you, great question. How are we able to rent this house out for 2,600?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good question. I'm gonna go ahead and stop my share and come back to the to my other screen over here. Let's see, where did it go? Okay. All right, so we did the important terms, we did the deal analysis calculator. Okay, so that's where it comes down to your strategy. Sarah asks such a good question. How are we renting such a cheap house out for $2,600?
Yes.
So first off, I want to say, like up here, live where you want and invest where the numbers make sense. So that's where it comes down to your market analysis and your strategy. To answer your question, I'm going to skip right over here to go to this MTR. This is your medium term rentals. And let me go ahead and open up my notes over here. So your medium term rentals, your short term rentals, you have a higher income. So you're able to rent your house out. If I was to rent my house out for short term periods, so 2 or 3 days at the smallest, less than 30 days at the highest, I would be renting it out for about 150 a night.
We lost you for a second.
Sorry, everyone. Alexa's working on getting back on. It should be just a minute or two.
It's okay. While waiting, Ali says she ran it for 6,000. Ali, can you share while we're waiting, if you don't mind?
Okay. Hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just moved to a new place, so that's why it's not very familiar with the Wi-Fi and thing here. So actually, I bought my property. I bought two properties in the other states, and I got one for 397,000 and one for 430,000. So it's really cheap, right? Put 10% down payment as a rent, as a second home, vacation home. Yeah, I do Airbnb. So average per night, I rent it out for like 220, 250 per night. And for the last couple of years, it's always fully booked. So I was being very like realistic to say 6,000, but it could be usually more than that. Some months I could rent it out for 9,000, 10,000 per month, average.
You say Seattle?
Yeah, the total income, the gross income. Net income is about like 6 to 7K per month.
Okay. So to be able to do that, like we have to determine the market, like is that a traveler like they normally book, right?
Yeah, you need to target. I'm using the app named DNA. I'm sorry, DNA. So they give you all the data that you need. Searching on the rental income of that location. You can put any zip code inside that, and you will come up with all the very accurate income of short-term rental for own area, own neighborhoods in the country. So, and one more
Hi,
thing, yeah.
this is Venki. Yeah. Which application you said? Can you post it?
DNA. You can search or Google
Oh,
DNA.
DNI. Okay.
Yeah, DNA. DNA. Let me send everybody the link. Let me search and send everybody the link
That's
how
Okay.
to search for that. But
awesome.
right now it's a little bit more challenging since the interest rate is so high, right? And the
Right.
price I got it was about 2.5 years ago. It's slightly different, but it's not a lot more. Just interest makes the money payment much higher, and the insurance. You know, like I bought my properties in Florida, so the insurance used to be much cheaper, and now it's a lot higher due to the hurricane last year.
Hi, Ali. This is Venki again. The
Yes.
biggest question is, how do you find a renter who is reliable and pays rent on time? See, I'm always worried that if it's out of state, we don't have no control over, at least
Okay.
here we can go and
This is
ask
a
or
different topic. Because regular rental income, I also have a regular like rental property, right? We are talking about Airbnb. For Airbnb, you don't have to worry about the income because Airbnb will pay you. You don't have to
got it.
collect. Yeah, you don't have to collect the rental from the guests. We call them guests. We don't call tenant. So we don't have to collect anything from the guests. Airbnb will take care of everything on of that. They will pay you on the second day the guest check in.
Okay, all right. Okay, thanks, Ali.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Ali, for sharing your investment stories while my Wi-Fi cut out.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, if you guys need anything, reach out to me. I can share the information of what I have, like where is that? Everything. I don't mind to share at all.
Yeah, please do.
Thank you so much, Ali.
You're welcome.
Alexa, this is Venki. I have the same question. She said
Yes.
it's Airbnb, which is good. In your case, how do you find the renter who is reliable and pays rent on time and doesn't, you don't have to go to court to kick them out or something?
Good question. I actually have that in my presentation here in just a minute. Before I got, because I'm going to be coming back to that on how you find your tenants that are going to pay rent on time and everything. Before I go back to that, I want to go back to where I was talking about MTR. So with my MTR business, I can charge $2,600 because their stays are so short. If I were doing a long-term rental, I'd probably only be able to charge maybe $1,200, and I might be breaking even on my investments in that regard. Are you all able to see my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, good. All right. So going back to like investing in the strategy. So we talked a little bit about STRs and MTRs. There's also value add, and this is done in the form of single family homes or multifamily homes. It can be something like adding paint, remodeling, adding hardwood instead of carpet, just making it look a little bit nicer, or even just adding furniture. That's a value add. Now I put single family versus multifamily because in a lot of places you can get a multifamily home that's maybe one bedroom on each side for the same price as a single family home. And you're going to be making more money renting out the two different spaces than you would a whole single family home, just because you're able to rent it out to more people. And so multifamily homes are a great investment. And then there's the BRRRR method. Has anybody ever heard of the BRRRR method and what it means? Obviously, I have it written down right there, but has anybody ever heard of it? Okay. So it's buy, renovate, rent, refinance. You can add one more R and say repeat. So you're doing this over and over and over again. But this strategy is to turn a profit quickly and efficiently. You're buying a property that's way under market value. From people that I've talked to, they try to get something that's 65% under market value. So really low. But then also still and you're making sure that the market is in fact in demand for rentals. And then you rehab. Make sure you're not over rehab, you're not over renovating it, and you're not under renovating it. You want to make sure you've got this sweet spot so you're not spending too much money, but you're also not being too cheap when it comes to renovations. And make sure that you're doing the big ticket items, as in the roof, the foundation. Your goal is to limit maintenance capital expenditures to move in. So you want somebody to move in and you don't want to ever have to be going in to fix things. Make sure you're doing that first. And I would say that's the case with any kind of rental you buy. If you buy something and buy a property, make sure it is livable. Everything in there is working and functioning before you start having people move in there. And then when you rent, so this is Venki and Kamala. This is where I kind of have it in there as well. But to screen your tenants. So let Ali out. Airbnb does this for you. If you rent through Airbnb, they are going to be screening all of your tenants, making sure they pay on time. And if they don't pay on time, then Airbnb is going to cover that for you. So Airbnb has something called Air Cover, where they just take on the cost for anything. I've used Air Cover quite a bit. It's kind of like rent. It's kind of like insurance. Where I've had tenants who come in and did a lot of damage, and they were to pay for the damage. And so Airbnb actually covered all of that. You just file a claim with them and they cover that for you, and they make sure that they pay. So Airbnb is great for that. If you're not using Airbnb, I use something called Avail, AVAIL. This is just tons of help for renting properties out. They create your lease, they'll write the lease for you, and they have it for every single individual state, so you can choose which state you're working in. Avail also send a background check. And so I've only actually had to do this once. All of my other tenants have come through Airbnb, but I will make the tenant pay for the background check. They do the background check, it comes back, it's good, it's clean. And then Avail will be the one requesting and collecting the rent payments every single month. And they will notify you if it hasn't been paid. If it has not been paid, then you have to get in touch with the tenant and work that out with them to make sure they get that paid. And then after renting out, you refinance. And so make sure you do find a lender that is familiar with the BRRRR method. Based off of lenders, you may have a time period for when you can actually start refinancing. And then account for refinancing in your initial analysis. So keep in mind those closing costs that you're going to have to pay again when you refinance. And are you doing an LLC? Or are you keeping it under your personal name? There are usually better rates when it's under your personal name. However, there is going to be more liability. So those are just things to keep in mind. Did I answer the questions that everybody had for that? Okay, good. So those are just your different strategies that I would say, pick out a strategy, pick out your priority. And then it comes to picking a market. Now, when I think about picking my market in Memphis, Memphis does not meet the criteria that I have here for you. However, we haven't had any problems so far. Now the reason what I'm saying that for, so home value, you want to pick a market where the home value has a 40% increase over the last decade. Crime rates, this is where Memphis fails, because Memphis is one of the top murder capitals in the United States. It's There's a lot of violent and property crime going on in Memphis. But you want to look for an index of 500 or below. Now, I heard Ali Tran talking about AirDNA. This is an excellent resource for finding the information, finding the answers to some of these questions. You can also use citydata.com. However, from everywhere that I've looked, I've found that information is usually a couple years behind. So citydata.com has a lot of information, but a lot of it comes from like 2021, maybe 2022. Same with this other website I use called datausa.io. And I'll go ahead and just drop these in the chat. I'll put them in a follow-up email, but I'll put them in the chat here for you right now. So it's AirDNA, which is an excellent one, and then citydata.com and datausa.io. Data USA and City Data both have kind of outdated information, but it's still good. So look for a crime index of 500 or below. You want the market that you pick out to have a good population growth, at least a 20% population increase in the last decade. Same with job growth. You want to see at least 2.2 to 3% increase over the last year. You need your tenants to be making more money. So job growth and wage and income kind of go hand in hand. You want to make sure that your tenants are able to pay for your property. Now, this does have to do with local renters. If you're doing short-term renters or medium-term renters, you're most likely going to be working with people out of state or out of that, just not local to that area. So most of the people that I work with are actually construction crews. Doing medium-term rentals, you might be working a lot with traveling nurses. And that's kind of a separate criteria. So traveling nurses, for example, probably make more money than the average income of that city, just to keep in mind. And then rent rates. You want the ability to raise rents. You see that here. A lot of blue states do not have, they're in favor of the renters. And so you might not have as much freedom to increase rent throughout the years. However, a lot of red states, you have a lot more freedom as the landlord. So you're able to kick tenants out easily, like easier than in a blue state. You're able to increase rent in a red state. Not taking a political stance here, I'm just letting you know to be aware of the laws when it comes to renting out your property. This also has to do with short-term rentals. A lot of places, there's kind of like this war on short-term rentals right now. An example is the property that we just listed in Colorado Springs. You have to submit an application for a short-term rental permit in Colorado Springs. And so there, we are not going to be doing as much short-term rental, any short-term rental, until or if we have that permit that allows us to do that. Any questions on picking a market and analyzing a market? Okay. Okay, great. We're going to go ahead and move on to creative financing. Now, you all as realtors, I am so sure that you all have all of the tips and tricks to creative financing, especially here in the Bay Area. We want to make sure that you are able to fund your investment properties. So there are a couple different loans that you can take advantage of. There's the owner-occupied loan. So I have heard of people doing this where they actually pick up and move to whatever city they're buying a property in. They live in that property and start renting it out. They have roommates, or they'll do like a upstairs downstairs situation. They could buy a multifamily home, live in one of the apartments, and then rent out the rest. You only need to pay, that's about a 3 to 3.5% down payment. When you're doing a conventional investment property, it's going to be 20 to 25% down. So you want to make sure you have more cash on hand for that. But if you're doing a second home loans, which is what we did, is we purchased it for only 10% down. So there are different ways to get around that. You do need to find ways to fund the money or to fund your investment. So first off, making sure that you're saving money. You need to know your DTI, which is your debt to income ratio. Make sure you know that before you get started on this. That way you're able to start saving money where you need to. You can HELOC it. How many of you know what a HELOC is? You can all virtually raise your hand, I'm sure. It's a line of credit secured by your home that gives you, so it's a line of credit on your home that you already have. So if you already own a home, you can take out a HELOC and just take out a line of credit based on the equity that you already have in your home. Pros and cons to that. Would anybody like to expand a little bit more on HELOC?
But that one, it have a higher interest rate, right?
Yeah, there's usually a higher interest rate with that. This is true. Okay, yeah, there's usually a higher interest rate. It's just up to you if that's gonna work for you or not. You can always cash out and refinance later. So replace your existing loan with a new one that includes a new interest rate and terms. Always a good opportunity if you, for example, us, when we purchased our property, we had a really high interest rate. I anticipate refinancing later in the future once interest rates go down. That way we can save a little bit of money there. There is private money lending. Now, when I talk about private money lending, so obviously that's usually going to be like higher interest rates, shorter terms, mostly for use of investors. I think of this a lot also as private money within family and friends. And so we've seen a lot of people do that, and that kind of turns into partnerships. I've seen a lot of people do that where they will partner maybe with a family member or a friend, or their family member will invest money into the house with them. And then they're able to put less percentage down and make more of a return. And then that, of course, turns into partnerships where you're partnering with people to purchase a house together. Make sure you vet your partners for sure. You don't want to be in business with someone that maybe you don't see yourself having a relationship with in the future. Someone just asked, how did I do a second home loan when I do not own a first home? This is a great question because I do not own a first home. We are renting. Second home loans, you can buy a second home if your first home is a rental property. So I'm living in a rental right now. I'm renting out my apartment here in this area because I'm living there and I have renter's insurance on that rental, that apartment. I am able to take out a second home loan. Any other questions or ideas even on creative financing? Okay. I have so much confidence in all of you as realtors because you already have so much experience with financing and helping your clients get into properties that financing isn't going to be an issue for you all. You all can be creative on your own. And then it comes to creating your ground crew. So this comes straight from the MREI book. Here I'm going to be talking about like your service circle, your support circle, and then your inner circle. So here's this fun little circle, all of your circles. Your service circle is this outer circle. That's going to include your electricians, your cleaners, your property managers, if you're using a property management company, your financial planners, insurance, everything that anybody who gives you, property management is not in here, but anyone that gives you some sort of service, they're going to be in this outermost circle. And then here you have your support circle. So this is your property managers, your attorneys, lenders, your real estate agents, making sure you find a good real estate agent, other investors, contractors, accountants, and then your inner circle. This circle is probably going to be the circle that you build first. Your mentors, your partners, and your consultants. The people that you go to when you have questions, who are going to help edify you and get you to becoming that millionaire real estate investor. It is so important to make sure that your ground crew is just full of stellar people. If you have people in your ground crew who are not stellar, who are not working to actively help you build your business is not going to be thriving as it would if you had the correct people in there. So that's where it comes to making sure that you are surrounding yourself with the correct people, whether that's in your mentors, even your cleaning, like the people who help you clean your house. You really want to make sure you have a good cleaning crew. And I feel like I can't stress that enough. as well as a good handyman, someone who's just going to be able to, obviously you're paying them. So you want someone who you want to be able to pay them enough to keep them honest with you. But making sure that you have the correct people in your circles. And then that leads me to, if it's going to move here. Oh, I think it cut off my last slide. That's okay. That's okay. My last slide is all about putting it into action. I'll send out the slides with this later as well, so you can have that last slide. But making sure that you are putting it into action. So I do have homework for you. If you are planning on making this work, if you're planning on starting your real estate investing career, that is going to be choosing a strategy, 1 to 2 investing strategies. So if that's MTR, STR, short-term rentals or medium-term rentals, if you're planning to buy, renovate, rent out, refinance, if you're wanting to just value add and then sell it off later, and then choose 2 to 3 markets. So have a couple different markets that you're choosing between. Maybe that's Cincinnati, Ohio, Kansas City, Memphis, wherever it is, pick a couple different markets to figure out which one is going to give you the highest return on investment. And then start analyzing deals with that deal analysis calculator. Soon after you've analyzed, if you're analyzing 10 deals a day, you're not even going to need the calculator. You're just going to be able to look at the price, look at what the rental is, know approximately what those insurance and taxes are going to be and if that's going to be a good deal for you or not. And then make sure you know what your priorities are. So if your priority is just appreciation, if it's month to month, if it's monthly cash flow, you need to know what your goals are and what you're looking for. Set your goals, and then always know your DTI, your debt to income ratio, so you're always ready when you want to purchase another property. Okay, that is what I have for you today. Any questions for me as we're finishing a couple minutes early? Thank you so much.
I have one question. And when
Yes.
you are searching for these deals in different, areas, you're just going online, you're going on Zillow, you're using any particular website for that?
Good question. When I was looking through deals, I was just going through Zillow and through my agent that I was working with. And yeah, just through Zillow. I normally put in the filters, like I want it to be under $250,000. Maybe I want it to be a townhouse or a multifamily home or a condo, whatever it is. You put in those filters and then you just search on Zillow, or my agent would send me deals as well. That's one of the most important things about finding a good agent, because my agent that I had, I would not recommend her to any of you. She did not do a lot of work for me. I had to do the work. You want an agent that's sending you off-market deals for sure. You all know, you guys are all agents yourselves.
I have a question. So,
Yes.
you know very well that photos in the Zillow can be deceiving.
Yes.
So how do you know the property is in decent shape? You have to travel, look at the property.
I never traveled. That's again where it comes down to your agent, and hopefully your agent is working for you and not just for your commission. We did a couple different tours with our agent of the property that we bought, and we were able to see, because it was a flip, the property that we bought. So we were able to see some of those, like if it still had issues, she was able to point them out to us. And then a lot of it came back in the inspection. I had this idea that I wouldn't, like, anything that I really needed to know if there's anything wrong with the property would come back in the inspection, and it did. Like we learned a lot in the inspection. So it's up to you. If you want to go out there and see it before, excellent. That's just another expense. We didn't want to expense that out to go see the property before buying it, so we just bought it sight unseen.
Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah.
Also, you as a realtor, you know what questions to ask. You have a lot of experience in this.
Yeah, but
So
in the Santa Clara County, typically, the seller does all the inspections and everything. But I'm not sure the red
that's
states.
true. Okay,
You have
so
to
that's
pay for all
that's
those.
something to consider for other states. In Tennessee, the buyer does all of the inspections. And if it's an investment property, which ours was previously, the investor doesn't have to give you any disclosures. So it's really important to know those different real estate laws in each state.
I see.
We just FYI, just in Northern California is where the seller is doing the inspection. Everywhere, as even in Southern California, the buyer is supposed to do it.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah, it is different. I know that about Santa Barbara as well. Like they don't give disclosures, or like there's something different with disclosures just in the state of California too. So it's different everywhere you go.
Okay.
Sarah,
Thanks.
did you have a question?
Yeah, I just want, I don't know about the question, but to summarize, how to find a good property if you focus on the cash flow. So, because we're not, like for me, I'm not gonna travel everywhere to find it, right? So how can I find that? For example, I hear your story. You say,
Yes,
oh,
it's a lot
that
of
area.
it's a lot of research online. So to find what our medium-term rental price was going to be, we did a lot of research through Furnished Finder, and that's a medium-term website, like rental website that caters mostly to traveling nurses. However, lots of other industries use it as well. But you can go on there and see what the different properties in that area are renting for. They also give you a lot of data for that city as well. So it told me how many a lot of it is with traveling nurses, but how many traveling nurses are there, how many properties there are in that area, and what the median rental price was.
What was that website
Yeah.
again?
What's the website
It's
again?
called Furnished Finder. Let me go ahead and put it in the chat as well.
Found it.
Okay.
Furnished Finder.
Mhm.
This is an excellent resource.
So,
So
but when,
I,
sorry, with that,
Oh.
like they asking you, for example, where are you going, right? So like we
yeah,
don't know
they'll
where
ask
we
you
go.
where you're going, and yeah, I see what you're asking. So what I would say is that it is kind of trial and error. You can look up online like best places to rent to medium term or to traveling nurses or something. You could look that up online, and I'll
Yeah.
give you a list of like these are great places. And then you kind of search through those.
You
We
put it on the finish like that.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, great idea.
We had a couple towns picked out. And we just kind of decided to go with Memphis because we thought we would get a higher return for the purchase price. And we
That's
have,
very high. That's very high.
yeah, I will say like that it is, it's just a matter of making sure you pick a good neighborhood and things like that.
And you say to find a good realtor, like you go through KW app, like do you know the realtor before, or how do you
I would
introduce?
say go through KW. So we worked with someone that was referred to us. And she wasn't a KW agent, but we decided, oh, since she was referred to us, we'll work with her.
Mhm.
We did not enjoy working with her. so
But you say she was
we-
good to you. Oh,
No,
is she
my
not? She
agent
not?
was not. My agent was
Oh.
not good to me. I have since looked at and spoken with other agents in Memphis for when we want to do our next property there. So I have different agents picked out that I feel like will work a lot better for us than our last agent. And then I think it's also helpful just to remember your expectations. Agents in other states work differently than agents here. Because the purchase price is so much lower, agents in other states, I think, do a little bit less work than what we do for our clients here. So just keep that expectation in mind.
So when you buy the second home, you say you down 10%. And then you're gonna have the PMI, correct? Until 20%.
The PMI.
Is that did I sound it correctly? Like the mortgage insurance?
Mortgage insurance.
Are you talking about the insurance? Is that what you said?
Yeah, the mortgage insurance until you reach 20%.
Yeah, yes. So we did have a few issues with that, just like how we insured it. But I don't know. Everything right now is working out.
Okay.
I'm saying that you've been managing it yourself, right?
Yes.
And you are doing less than 1 year. So how much work is involved as far as finding the tenants for you?
Good question. So with finding tenants, there are algorithms. I love Airbnb. I don't like working through Furnished Finder as much. If I get a lead through Furnished Finder, I usually direct them to Airbnb. The amount of work that I do, the most is when we get a new tenant. So when I have that turnover day, those days or whatever, I'll probably be working 2 or 3 hours, maybe a day on flipping, like on just resetting the property and getting the new tenants in there. And then dealing with any problems that there might be. But then when a tenant is in, the goal is to be as hands-off as possible. So when I had the last tenants I had in there for about 3 months, and I probably collectively did an hour of work every 2 weeks, maybe, for them, because everything was fine. There were no issues in the house, and they were able to just keep living there. But once we do a reset and a turnover, I'm working with my cleaners, I'm working with my handyman, everyone to make sure that it gets reset.
So you're still using like some service like Airbnb or whatnot in order to get your next tenant for 3-4 months.
Yeah. And there are ways to increase your visibility on Airbnb. Some things you can do is just change the name of your listing every single day. So I get really good at adjectives. It's my beautiful 3-bed, 2-bath house. It's my large 3-bed, 2-bath. Like I just change that first word, and that increases its visibility. Also, luckily, I've become a superhost. And so with that superhost badge, my property gets advertised directly to clients or to tenants' emails when they're looking for houses in the area.
Wait. So wait, I have a question. If you don't hire some property management, and if you're not there, how can you show the house?
You don't show the house. I've never had to show the house. So most people just do it. Most people, when they're renting for a medium-term rental, it's just sight and scene.
Oh, you leave a lockbox there, and they come and they open the door themselves and get
No,
in?
they don't come see the house at all. So it's the same. So when you go somewhere and you rent an Airbnb, like even just for 2 or 3 days, you don't go look at it first.
Right. I mean, but then this one you say it's like 9 months, right?
Yeah. It's
So-
9 months, and she can't come look at the house first.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
you have your filters set on Airbnb that you don't want to rent for less than 3 months or whatever. So you define that in there, right?
Yes, I define that in there. My lowest, I actually changed mine. So 3 weeks is the lowest amount of time that I'll allow a client to stay in there. So 3 weeks to 12 months.
and Airbnb help with that.
Yeah, Airbnb helps with that. Exactly.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, so Lindsay Lopez just asked, are there tenant rights in Memphis like there is in California? Example, I've heard of an instance in California where someone was renting via Airbnb. The tenant would extend their stay, then they stopped paying, but since they had been in the property for over 30 days, they had rights. So what protects you in Memphis from this happening? Good question. So I don't know what that particular scenario would look like in Tennessee. However, Memphis, Tennessee has next to zero laws when it comes to rentals and renting for the landlords, at least. So I have the ability to kick someone out effective immediately and with my tenants. If they're not paying, Airbnb will do air cover where they'll file a claim, make sure that the host gets paid. You might not get paid out everything, but you will get paid. If someone cancels their stay, I have the ability to still charge them the full amount. So Tennessee does not have as many tenant rights, which is sad for the tenants, but great for the landlords. You're protected. That's what I was talking about, kind of like the different political situations in each state.
Okay.
You're going to have you as the landlord are going to be safer in a red state.
So it sounds like go through Airbnb a lot safer now.
Yeah, 100%. And I've heard of a lot of people using VRBO. That's the new thing, the new whatever. The issue with VRBO is that tenants can delete their profile. So if you're a tenant on VRBO, so I've just heard horror stories where people will come in, trash a location, a house, and then because VRBO doesn't have the same precautions that Airbnb does, they don't have the same insurance, and then that tenant is able to delete their profile, there's no prosecution to this tenant. You're not able to find them at all. So I like to steer clear of VRBO. I mean, people have success on it. I'm just a little bit scared of that because of that background, that background check that Airbnb has. I just like Airbnb a little bit better. Okay, team.
Hi, Alexa.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned about multifamily versus single family. So you said multifamily is better in terms of
Yes.
cash flow.
You make more money per door you have. So when I say per door, a multifamily home, you might have 4 doors on there if it's a fourplex. You can be making, maybe you're making $1,500 a door because each door is a 1 bedroom. So collectively that turns into $6,000 a month. Whereas maybe you have a 3-bedroom house, like what I have, and only 1 door. And when people rent it out, they pay $2,600 a month. So you're making more on however many doors you have versus how many rooms are in that.
Okay.
All right. So
Sounds
we've
good.
gone
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. We're past 12 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off there. If you have any other questions for me, please reach out and I'll be happy to answer.
Alexa, please leave us, at least me, your phone number. When the time comes, I'll reach out.
Yes, yes. I'm actually going to leave you my email because I am better at responding to
Okay.
my email.
Sure.
So there's my email for everyone, alexabeatty@kw.com. And I am so happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. It's very
Of
helpful
course,
today.
of course. Thank you all for
Thank you,
joining my
Laura.
class today. You'll receive an email from me by the end of the day with just the additional resources.
And please send out the slide that you just shared. Yes,
I'll have
it's
all of the
updated on
slides.
it. Yeah. Thank you so much. Have a great
Yes,
day.
of course. Have a great
Yeah.
rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.